There was 16 that, you know, that Saturday.
Yeah.
It was tough. It was tough.
So I hope you slept in on Sunday morning.
Well, I missed my church, but I saw the mass on television.
Okay. All right.
Hello, people.
Hey, Jim.
I can't see you, Maria. Is your
You
hair a
won't see me.
mess?
No makeup, no nothing. This is not a.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that is. My sister refused to let me put the video on.
Okay.
I like your makeup, Jim. It looks good.
Oh, this, yes. I use a lot of white powder. Many inches.
You're really 50 years old, but you want to look older. I know.
Actually, when I was younger, the beard helped because I had a really young face, and without it, no one would take me seriously.
All right.
Oh, wow.
Be right back. I have to get some water.
Yeah. Okay.
I have struggled to get Jim to you know, to go to one of the Dominican barber, but he refuses to.
What?
I said that I want Jim and Steve Simon to go to a Dominican barber.
Oh, yeah.
They'll come out of there, you know, you won't recognize them.
That's for sure.
But how would people know that it's me then? They think I was someone else.
Well, then we had to go and do another thing. We had to get him to get rid of his sandals also.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So
But,
that's a throwdown for Jim and Steve because they need to get hip.
I know.
Yeah.
Well,
They will have about 50 women chasing after them, both of them. But
my appearance is that of a hippie, and way back when that appearance was hip. Sandra, how are you?
I can't imagine you as a hippie, Jim.
Oh, politically, I'm not. But it's the look.
Can't see it. Can't see it. Can't see the hair. No.
Right. The attire, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Our fearless leader has arrived.
Hi, everybody.
Good evening.
I am hoping, I would like to just wait until Leo Jimenez joins because we've got a busy night tonight and I don't want to be note-taking and trying to lead the meeting at the same time. So just catch up to what we have so far though. And once Marcus is with us and he can tell us who else from New York City Transit was here.
Okay, now I can see.
Mark.
Trying
Yes.
to be I couldn't tell who was on or who was off. Couldn't see anything. Let's see who's in the participants. Hey, Jim, how are you? It's been a long time. since-
Yes, it's so nice. Well, I would say it's so nice seeing you again, but your picture looks like a cloud.
There you go.
Ah, there you are.
There you go.
I had to do that because I couldn't tell whether my video was on. Let's
Uh-huh.
see.
You've grown a beard, I see.
I have.
Uh-huh.
My
Uh-huh.
COVID beard.
Well, I did it a little bit earlier.
I don't see any of my colleagues on yet. I only see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 people. Am I correct?
Well, we on the panelist side, but let me just.
Okay. Now I'm checking attendees. Okay, so
Right.
Kyle is here. Guys, if you are with DOT or New York City Transit, please speak up.
Well, just if they're in the attendee, we need to get them promoted. They're not going to be able to.
Okay, I'm just going to assume Kyle Gephardt is one of those. I don't see any other familiar names.
All right, let me text Lyle also because we had a little back and forth on who was going first and second.
Okay. Oh, there's Patrick Doherty. He's with us as well.
Okay. Yep.
I believe Patrick is with, I know Patrick is with Operations Planning and Transit, and Kyle is with DOT, I believe.
Yep.
Okay. Glad I was helpful.
Okay, great. All right. So I am going to call the meeting to order. It's thanks, Chanel. It's 7:08. Is there anybody on the committee that can take some notes until Leo joins us? Or why don't we do this? I will take the note portion. And then we'll see.
You're
where we
breaking
are,
up, by the
because
way.
after that, I don't think I'm going to be able to. Oh, you're kidding. I can't believe we're
No.
starting the night with this.
Now
All
you're
right.
a little bit
Is that any better?
Yeah, it got better.
All right. Okay. So I'll take notes for the New York City Transit and DOT portion to kick us off. But first, so my name is Debbie Nabavian. I chair Traffic and Transportation Committee. In attendance, we have from the committee, we have Jim Berlin, Mary Anderson, Bruce Robertson, and Jay Mazer. From CB12 writ large, we have Maria Luna so far. And I'm sure we'll add some folks as the evening wears on.
Marshall Vanderpool.
I'm going.
Marshall's on too.
Okay, great. Hi, Marshall. Okay. So we have a pretty busy agenda tonight. I thought we were, well, whatever. I rearranged things a little bit. So we're going to start with DOT and New York City Transit wanted to come and update us on some things that are really more part of the Bronx bus picture, but they do, since some of those bus lines obviously end up or start in CB12, they wanted to give us the benefit of the update as well. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to, so we have Patrick Doherty, Kyle Gebhardt, and Marcus Book so far. And so
Kyle, are you going to be doing the presentation?
Yes, myself and Patrick.
Okay, all right, good enough.
And just for clarity, the specific update will be on the BX6 Select Bus Service project update and capital elements. But do you want me to go ahead and get started?
Yeah, and just for the benefit of the committee, when this agenda item came over, it was a little bit sort of vague, and it just sort of mentioned SBS and Bronx, but hopefully it helped a little bit just in terms of getting the detail out. Committee member Bruce Robertson, who's here tonight, lives kind of in the heart of the community that are the heavy utilizers of the BX6, and he was able to get a message out on the neighborhood board. And I did as well on the Facebook board, but what Bruce did should get to people a little bit faster and more direct. So he did that, like, I don't know, 2 hours ago, 90 minutes ago. So hopefully we have people drifting in who saw that this related specifically to the BX6.
Thanks, Debbie. We want to know the Yankee schedule, bus stops.
Oh, right.
Okay, I will go ahead and get started. So let me share the relevant presentation here. All right. Everybody can see that? All right, great.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so thanks everyone. You know, we're here to update on a few things, myself and Pat from MTA. So on the BX6 Select Bus Service, it's been a while, and so we thought we owed you all an update of how things are going and some kind of enhancements we have to go along with this project. So I'll go ahead and jump right into it. So I just want to give you some background. It's been a while since I know there's some familiar faces from 4 or 5 years ago or longer ago when we started planning this work. And so just kind of want to go through that. Pat will then talk about some of the results we've seen on the bus side for the BX6 Select Bus Service. And then I'll talk about some capital project improvements that we've been working on over the years, and then we'll go over the next steps for the implementation of those. So just starting out, so if you all remember, the BX6 Select Bus Service was launched in September of 2017. So this is the critical, really crosstown route. You know, of course, it starts with the BX. Most of it is in the Bronx, but it does connect on 155th Street to Manhattan. And whether you're going to Yankee games or getting across town all the way to Hunts Point, this is kind of the best way to this route to get across, as of course we know that a lot of the subways travel north-south, so it's a really critical crosstown route. When we launched this Select Bus Service, and one of the big changes MTA made, it was just an all-local route, and so we actually did the step of splitting it into both a local and a select bus service route. So the plus signs you see here are what end up being the select bus service stops with local stops sprinkled in between. So there was a lot of elements that went into the select bus service project. A lot of these are kind of more visible on the Bronx side, but you know, if you're riding the bus in Manhattan or connecting there, bus riders really benefit from these. So there were several bus lanes implemented on portions of the corridor. None on the Manhattan side, but there was several portions on 161st Street and 163rd Street that saw bus lanes. More kind of obvious or more visible on the Manhattan side is the fare machines, the off-board fare collection. So this is the really kind of keystone of select bus service, which allows riders to pay their fare off the bus, speeding the boarding and improving the dwell times, the time the bus is spent at the stop, and it's really speeding up the ride. We did kind of a few different on the DOT side, what we kind of thought was a more innovative approach, and with bus boarding islands and this kind of center running eastbound busway through the tunnel under Grand Concourse. And we'll talk about, you know, how some of that's been improved very lightly, but it's you know, this is something that again heavier on the street design side, on the Bronx side. But as a result, we've seen a lot of like really great improvements to this route. And so I will turn it over to Pat to go over some of the results.
All right, thanks, Kyle. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Good evening,
Yeah.
everyone. My name's Patrick Doherty. I'm with MTA's bus planning team. I'll be walking you through some of our key performance indicators, highlighting how SBS made a difference for our riders along this corridor. So in general, the results were very positive and in line with results we've seen on other SBS routes throughout the city. So first, looking at bus speeds and travel times, which is one of the primary performance indicators. After the launch of SBS, end-to-end travel times improved anywhere from 11 to 16%, depending on the time of day and direction. So this translates into almost 7 to 8 minutes along the entire line, which is a pretty significant savings. Not everyone's riding end to end, but most people are seeing part of that savings. And with faster travel times and speeds, this means customers are getting to where they need to go sooner. You'll notice these charts show data immediately before and after the implementation through 2018. But you'll see on the next slide, we show bus speeds over time, starting in 2018 through March of this year. So you can kind of get a sense of how bus speeds changed through the pandemic. You'll see in 2018 and 2019, SBS speeds remained relatively stable. And then obviously, when the pandemic hit, speeds spiked as there was fewer riders and less traffic on the streets. However, now with riders returning to the system, traffic returning to the streets throughout the recovery, we're seeing bus speeds starting to trend downwards back to pre-pandemic levels. And here, I think it's important to note, this is where we hope speeds start to stabilize. And we will really be relying on effective bus priority, especially along this corridor with the bus lanes to keep buses moving. So moving on, our next performance metric we'll be looking at is reliability, specifically the number of late buses or bus bunching along the corridor. So you'll see the chart on the left shows the number of late buses, which is a bus arriving more than 5 minutes late for its scheduled arrival. The gray line or the gray bar chart represents the local service before SBS was implemented. And you'll notice after implementation, a significant drop in the number of late buses throughout the day. And then discussing bus bunching, which you are all likely familiar with. You're waiting at a bus stop longer than you expect, and then all of a sudden 2 buses arrive at once, which can obviously be very frustrating. The number of instances we're seeing that along this corridor has significantly dropped. You can see pre-SBS, we were occasionally seeing a quarter of our buses arrive bunched, particularly in the AM eastbound direction. That dropped to nearly 2% with the launch of SBS. And this is a result of two things, really. The bus staying out of traffic, utilizing bus lanes, and also the reduction in dwell times. So customers were no longer lining up the front of the bus, dipping their Metro cards resulting in extremely long dwell times for one trip, and then short dwell times for the following trip, creating that bunching phenomenon that you see on the corridor. So significant improvements again in terms of bus reliability. Then finally, looking at bus ridership trends on the next slide, which really show how riders responded to these changes. You'll notice before the SBS launch, the BX6 local and BX6 corridor ridership was trending closely with the borough-wide trend, declining about the same rate. Post SBS, while there was still a decline in ridership, you'll see that the trend lines really separating as the BX6 corridor ridership started to stabilize, while the Bronx borough-wide trend really continued that downward decline. So this was encouraging. As a result of faster and more reliable service, we saw fewer customers fleeing the system and choosing alternative options of transportation. So I think that's it. I think to wrap it up though, bringing SBS to the BX6 was a big win for riders. We're really looking forward to seeing the next phase of implementation, which I'll turn it back to Kyle, who can go through some of the next steps and what you expect to see along this corridor in the coming months and years.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. So I'll go into some of the capital improvements we have planned, and we've been working with DDC, Department of Design and Construction, as far as the planning and design of a lot of these elements. So I just want to take 1 second high level to kind of go over the different kinds of elements so we'll be highlighting. So the first two on the top are some kind of pedestrian safety improvements. So, with all of these projects at DOT, our focus here is really helping the select bus service and making the service faster, more reliable. But, we know we always want to improve street safety, particularly pedestrian safety. And every bus rider starts and ends their trip as a pedestrian too. So it's really important for bus riders' whole trip. So Pedestrian Islands, that's where, we have the refuge in the middle of the street. Some curb extensions. So we've done some of these in paint, and the capital project will give us an opportunity to build these out in concrete materials. Bus pads in the lower left. This is just a concrete pad in the roadway. Most bus riders or casual users of the street don't notice it too much. It's kind of more of a state of good repair that really helps prevent the street, the asphalt at the bus stop from what we call hummocking. When the bus is a heavy bus is starting and stopping a lot, the asphalt can get a little wavy, and it will slow down the bus when that happens. So that's something we try to incorporate. And then kind of the keystone to a lot of this project is really the bus bulbs. The bus bulbs have several benefits. One is the bus no longer has to pull in and pull out of the stop. It will just stop in the lane that it's driving in. This kind of speeds up the bus pulling in and out of the stop. It also helps the bus better align with the stop. I'm sure we've all experienced this, where you're at the stop and, the bus doesn't exactly pull all the way to the curb. And that's not really good for anybody. It also creates more sidewalk space and kind of separates the kind of bus stop part of the sidewalk where people are boarding and alighting with the kind of part of the sidewalk where people are walking through and doing all the other activities that take place on the sidewalk. So I'll go through how we kind of apply to each of these at intersections that touch Community Board 12. So first one here is 157th Street and Broadway. Can you all see my mouse? If I move it? Can Pat or Bruce nod? Those are the two people I can see. Okay, Pat nod, thanks. So just, so this is 157th Street and Broadway. So this is where the BX6 SBS comes south on Edward and Morgan Place to Broadway. And we have a BX6 SBS and local stop right here. And then we have some existing pedestrian safety improvements that were built out and that were implemented in paint as a part of our operational project. What we'll do with the capital project here is a few things. So you'll see the improvements here in a dark gray. The first one is putting that bus bulb that I described right here at the SBS stop. Behind it will be the local stop. There'll be a bus pad associated with this as well. Implementing a new pedestrian island on Edward and Morgan Place. And then also building out some of those areas that you saw in the paint. So building that out in concrete on Broadway to help shorten those crossing distances. So yeah, Bruce, I'll go ahead and take.
Just a quick
Yeah, go
interjection,
ahead.
because I live, let's see, we live, where the hell are we?
Upper left corner.
Upper left corner, right above 157, mid-block. And the only problem we see lately is that 3 times a week, somebody double parks and the buses can't get through. So there's a bottleneck.
Yeah.
Is there anything we can do with that? And at one point, we recommended having the bus go, make a right on Morgan and then a left on Riverside to bypass that one-way street that goes westbound and frustrates drivers from time to time. And we hear all the honking. So that's just my comment.
Okay, yeah. We can, I don't, but
We
we'll-
talked about it with DOT and they didn't really want to deal with it. And I don't know why, but I'm just bringing it up again because it seems like a simple solution,
all right,
but nothing's ever simple.
Let's hold till they're done, but just,
Thank you. I'm sorry.
and I want to come back to it because we have, I mean, that's an MTA question, but they're here too. And we have sort of sent it up, but just before we move on from this slide, if you could just spend just one more moment describing, I see the pedestrian island, I get the bus bulb, but just the curb extension, can you just like call those out where those are being built?
Yeah, and maybe it's useful if if I flip back between what it was before. So you'll see this is where it's painted. And then you'll see in the future condition here, where we'll build those things out, and then including this pedestrian extension here on this southwest corner as well.
Okay, so it's just converting, sort of hardening what is currently paint and then adding one where there was not one already.
Correct, plus the bus bulb and pedestrian island.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so I'll move on to
Are they moving, are they coming back to this issue later? Because I'd like to say something about, since I
Well,
live here also.
we're not, okay, Kyle, why don't you finish up with your presentation and then we'll
Okay.
move to questions.
Thank you. Okay.
Thanks, Maria.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so next intersection here, 155th Street and Broadway. There's not an SBS stop here, but the bus does travel through here. And we had, it's a similar situation where we had some painted median tip extensions and a sidewalk extension. And so it would be building some of these out as well. So you'll see here in the dark gray, building out this channelized area and some of these painted spaces here. So this intersection is mainly just hardening the pedestrian safety improvements. And then next location is 155th Street and Amsterdam Avenue. So this is where we have currently a select bus service stop and a local stop. They're both on the east side of Amsterdam Avenue here. So there is the housing development down here and the school to the north. And so this would be adding in bus bulbs and some curb extensions at this intersection. So at the on the east side, the stops would stay generally in the same place. Both the local and the SBS would stop on the bulb on the westbound side, on the north side of the street. On the eastbound side, there'd be the SBS would be on the bulb, and then the local would pull in and split, kind of how it is today. And on the east side of the intersection, there would be curb extensions shortening this crossing on 155th Street. And then the next intersection, it's a very complicated intersection. We've done quite a bit of work here over the years, as you guys are aware. 155th Street and Edgecombe Avenue, but it's also where Harlem River Driveway and St. Nicholas Place come together. There's kind of 3 north-south streets, at least with 3 different names that come together. And there's not a select bus service stop, but there is 2 local bus stops. And we had some painted improvements. And there's also a bike connection here. So we kind of wanted to formalize a lot of this here. And so the improvements here are to, build out some of these painted areas, help kind of formalize the exact bike markings here and how the bike connections work. At the location of this local stop, we'd actually be we're actually planning to pull back some of that painted area. It wasn't, one advantage we have with painted areas, we can kind of see how they work. This one wasn't working too well with the flexible delineators getting hit a lot, and the local bus, it was difficult for it to maneuver around. So this way, the bus here is able to just pull right in. And that is all of the improvements. We can go back to them, of course, especially with specific questions. But I did quickly want to just go over the timeline that we've been working on the design with DDC on. So we're presenting all the community boards, of course, right now. You guys are the first ones. I did want to mention, Bruce, I know you said you had sent this around to people. If people couldn't make this presentation, there'll be a very similar one to the other Manhattan community boards that they could attend, CB9 and 10. And then we'll be doing them on the Bronx the following week. And then we'll continue through the capital project process and take into account any comments we get and finalize the design in next year, 2023. And the DDC will be working on the procurement and then aiming for the construction start, hopefully in early 2024. And happy to take the next question. The first question, rather.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm going to keep my video off for the moment just because I am having so many problems with my internet connection. I think it helps a little bit. And Jay Mazer, you had a hand up from early in the presentation. Did you have a comment you wanted to make to start us off?
Actually, I think the question's more appropriate to give to the MTA.
Okay. But we have Patrick Doherty here from the MTA. So go ahead. I mean, did it relate to the BX6 line? Jay? All right. Well, we'll come back to Jay, but
no, I can ask the question now.
Okay.
Actually, in terms of the MTA's role in this, one of the key factors in bus bunching is when the buses leave, in which case I think it's a question of having sufficient supervisory personnel, particularly dispatchers. So my question in terms of this is, how many dispatchers are assigned? And is there a full complement of them for the BX6 bus? And also, since large numbers of trains actually were canceled because there weren't sufficient personnel to take them out of the yard, is that same problem, has it occurred or is it occurring with buses, either the MTA buses or the Mabstoa buses?
Okay, I can try to answer your first question there about supervision along the line. So we do have road operations teams who supervise all of our routes throughout the city. I don't have a specific number on how many are actually monitoring the BX6 SBS, but you're right. Leaving the terminal on time is important and certainly contributes to bus bunching. That said, we do try to monitor it closely and make sure buses leave the terminal on time.
Who does know the number of dispatchers, and who does know whether there's a full complement of them on the line?
I can check in with our road operations department and get back to the community board if you'd like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks.
Unfortunately, I can't answer your question about the subway, the number of subway operators and not pulling trains out. That's not my department.
That actually wasn't my question. My question was whether that's a problem with buses as well.
Yeah, I would say, Jay, I'm not sure if that was your name. It has occurred, especially at the height of the pandemic and the height of the second variant, when in fact there are outages and sicknesses. It does affect sometimes our ability to get the full complement of buses pulled out of the depot. But that is starting to settle down now. We just had several classes of bus operators and train operators come out of school and are ready to run. So that's starting to stabilize. That was a problem at peaks in the pandemic. And it's, at times, because we're still not out of it, it can be an issue even today, but it's something that's begun to stabilize.
All right, thank you. Bruce, did you want to, should we come back to your question about the routing around Edward Morgan, and then after Bruce, we'll have Maria Luna, and then Julio Batista.
I think I made my point. I hope I'm clear, but I'd love to do it offline because, it's just a way to streamline what you guys did and DOT did on Riverside Drive, which was at first controversial, but people have settled into it and it's working. So thank you.
Can you just clarify the routing, the suggested routing, so I can take notes on that?
Okay, so going straight across Morgan down 157 to Riverside and making a left, it can be pretty tricky because the SBS bus, sometimes there's a car parked in front of 801 Riverside and it backs up the buses and the drivers are frustrated. So you got 2 or 3 buses and they honk, the cars honk, everybody honks. We thought that maybe making a right on Morgan Place and then making a left on Riverside at 158 might alleviate some of that problem with 157, because 157 is, parking on, it's parking on both sides, it's one way, and some guy double parks, and inevitably 3 times, 4 times a week, it's noisy.
So just two quick notes on that. I do see Riverside Drive East is now only a single lane with parking on both sides, so you might encounter the same issue. It also looks like a 5-point intersection, which could be a little tricky for a bus making the turn.
But they were doing that when the construction was going on, so it can be done. And I've actually spoken to a few drivers who said that might be a better way to go. So,
right, yeah, you still have, I guess you still have the issue of the single lane where if there's a double parked car, you'd have the same issue. But I can take a closer look at this.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, just a reminder as we move to again Maria, and then I see Steve Simon, and then Julio Batista. Then I do want to kind of wrap this up. We've got a long night, and so again, remember 2 minutes for your question and 1 minute for a response. So you've got 3 minutes to work with. And Jim, if you can be keeping an eye on time tonight, I would appreciate it. Maria?
Thank you. I am concerned about the pedestrian lane on Morgan Place from 157 going up to 158th Street. I'm talking about the corner where the Chipotle is. How narrow it's going to narrow that area, and we have a hydrant in the corner, but there are people who park right. There is no parking. There shouldn't be any parking there, but there are people. There is a local 3 businesses. It's really important to us. How that is the outside of the restaurant next to Chipotle, and then there is a pharmacy. So that area is going to be really narrow if you have a pedestrian, aisle there. And also for the security, the people crossing, I don't know, you see my arrow from one side where the bus stop, the SBS there, and people running back and forth to pick up, to enter the subway or to get across to the number 4 or number 5 bus. That particular area could be a little complicated if you are going to put an aisle right on that corner, to the middle of the street. So I will hate to, look at the parking. We need to enforce that area on 157th Street across from 600, 602, all the way down behind 800 Riverside. If that could be alleviated, just make sure that no one parks. So the bus, when they turn from Broadway, continues, there's not going to be a lot of problems. The problem is when there are people, parking, double parking across when they shouldn't be. But my concern about, the width of the pedestrian on that particular, area, and I think it's not going to just help the pedestrian. It takes a little long to cross, a few seconds to cross, but I'm concerned about this particular area here, from the Chipotle crossing to the aisle.
Thank you. Okay, Maria, I think right, Maria, I think we got it. So, and I think this is a constant challenge, because it's if something's not being enforced and people are doing illegal things, and then that's not necessarily reason not to do a sensible streets change, but it's always a challenge because
Debbie, with all
because enforcement, Maria, I'm talking,
there are businesses
because
around
enforcement
that way,
can't be everywhere.
but also it will impact on their businesses also. It's not just a pedestrian, it's also the businesses on that part, along that, that side, that side of the street.
All right. So DOT, do you have any response to that, of that pedestrian island contemplated on Edward Morgan may cause some sort of clogging up that street because of parking on either side, or parking on the not BX6 bus stop side?
Yeah, no, it's a good point to bring up that we don't think it's going to make anything, worse than the existing condition. I think it's something, we can definitely take a look at the curb regulations here and see if there's any adjustments to make. I will say, this street, like one reason we had the opportunity to put in a lot of these improvements, I think it is very wide right now. And what we've noticed before is sometimes when we see a really wide street, especially when it's, not a very congested, section of the street, it does sometimes invite people to do more double parking and that sort of activity. So hopefully by kind of tightening it up, it, could have a positive impact. But I think it's something we can definitely monitor. We want to make sure, it's still going to work with this design.
Okay, thank you. Steve Simon?
Yeah, thank you. I was hit by a car in the middle of Edward Morgan Place at 157th Street about 25 or so years ago. So I probably could have used some of these improvements back then. But I'm a little confused right now about what's being proposed for the northwest and southwest corners at I'm sorry, the northwest and northeast corners at 157th Street and Broadway, and also the southeast. You're going to be building out the sidewalk into the parking lane. Is that what it is?
Yeah, so I can but by the way,
Steve, you were a little late. Is that what you're saying? Go over what? Because there's some of this is just hardening what is currently paint.
No, I don't think we have that on those corners. But if you're going to build out the sidewalk in those three places, isn't that going to interfere with the bus traffic that pulls into those bus stops?
So just for clarity, we wouldn't be changing the geometry like on these corners. The reason you'll see this in dark gray is because we will be rebuilding the pedestrian ramps to make sure they're fully up to ADA standards. But the geometric changes, really actually nothing will change here, because like if you see, like it's just building out all of these kind of painted areas at Broadway and 157th.
So where you have these darker things extending into the street, you're not actually building something there?
We are building something, but it's the same geometry that's there in paint right now.
No, not there, but on those three other corners.
On this corner, this corner, and this corner?
It looks like you're building an extension of the sidewalk into these parking lanes.
Yeah, so we're not building an extension. It's just rebuilding the curb in the same place it is, but just making sure that the pedestrian ramps are up to ADA standards.
Okay, so only the ped ramp. Okay,
correct.
All right.
All right. Thank you for that clarification. That was helpful. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, DOT. Julio?
Thank you, Debbie. So just to echo Maria's point on making that right turn on Edward Morgan Place, there are some restaurants there. I believe they still may have some sheds. So you need to take that in consideration, because if those sheds are going to remain, you will then present a bigger issue. But I just want to talk about the sort of making permanent the structure that exists now, because since these improvements were made, it actually created traffic where the traffic was not as bad before. And I happen to know that because I drive through there every single day. And since these marks were made, it narrowed the street and you have more traffic congestion that you had before. So when you make a left turn on Broadway 157th Street, what I would like to ask DOTs to look at is the synchronization of the lights. When you make a left turn on 157 Broadway and the light at Edward Morgan Place, they're not really totally sequenced. So then you have bottleneck between across Broadway and 157th Street. So
just to clarify, you're talking about the northbound left on Broadway, like
correct.
This movement?
Correct. Yeah.
All
so
right.
If you can look at the lighting and the sequences of that, it might be helpful in lessening some of the traffic.
Okay, thanks. That's helpful. We did a while ago because we had some issues with the bus was getting stuck
Right. It
in the
still
short
does.
block. So
Mhm.
we made some signal timing improvements of that coordination, but I can take that back and we can look again.
Right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, wait, Maria, is that an old hand or you have one more question?
I finished. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maria. Appreciate you being here. Okay. So I can't believe this is still 2 years away. But thank you for being here. Thank you for the update. Will this presentation be posted publicly or not until you're done with your meeting all the community boards, etc.?
No, I think we'll try to get it up online, hopefully tomorrow. We can have we'll have the Manhattan office can reach out too.
Right, because it's also helpful for people to see when they might have other opportunities to be part of the presentation. All right, so thank you, Kyle, Patrick, Marcus, for being here. Lyle, obviously you're still going to stay with us. And with that, if I could get let's see, Nick and Sandra up to go.
Great.
And okay, so the second item on our agenda is long delayed, for all sorts of reasons, an update on things at Haven Plaza. So as people remember, this was approved by the board, I don't know, 2018, beginning of 2019, I would think. And then had some delays in rolling out related to a bunch of construction that was happening in the area, and then did roll out, and then we had a pandemic. And we did, obviously, when we passed the resolution, that was for a DOT plaza done with temporary materials. And so it was always our intention to have a check-in, to understand sort of how utilization was, how it was being utilized, how things were going, etc. And so tonight we have Sandra Harris, which I think most of us know from over the years, and with Nick Hughes as well, who's a current, you'll explain your title, coordinator for the Poobah of Haven Plaza, from the which is the maintenance partner for this plaza. And then we have Lyle Blackwood here as well from DOT to fill in. Obviously DOT's role is a little bit more limited, but just, some fill-in items from DOT as needed. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Sandra and Nick.
Oh, Debbie, well, sorry. Can you elevate Jessica Kronstein also? She's my colleague from DOT from Public Safety.
And then I'm going to
joining with us to talk about the plaza.
Yeah. And Debbie, can
Chanel,
I?
Did you catch?
Yeah, can you enable me to share my screen?
Yeah, Chanel. Okay, so Chanel, just because I know a few of us were talking. Jessica Kronstein is in the attendee list, so she should get promoted. And then, but Sandra, anything she needs there, she goes.
Okay.
She's all set.
Let's see. There we go. Hi, do I see Jessica? Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for inviting us back. I know we briefly updated back in the March meeting. So our goal here tonight, let me backtrack because Debbie did introduce me, but for those who don't know me, my name is Sandra Harris, and I'm the Associate Vice President for Government Community Affairs at Columbia University Medical Center. With me here tonight is Nick Hughes, who is our coordinator for Plaza programming, one of those roles that we insisted on having during the application process, and Nick will share in some of the programming that we've had thus far. So the goal for tonight's presentation is really to provide a summary of what has transpired. And Debbie, you talked about the previous project. I went back to 2016, which is when we started this application process. So we'll be providing an overview of what has happened in terms of our parking conditions in the area, some of the programming that we shared, and as well as some of the impact on deliveries and other situations in the surrounding area. So I will start the presentation with some of the initial programming, and Nick will continue with activities moving forward. Well, and I mean, if Debbie, I don't know how you want to handle it, but I can go through the presentation and then take questions at the end.
Exactly, and I may have, when you conclude, just hit up Lyle and Jessica for a few comments, and then I'll open it up for questions.
Wonderful, great. So then I want to start with the beginning. So one of the things that we were able to do in collaboration with the board and our neighbors, it's one of the things that we made clear was that during the construction phase, we wanted to make sure to accommodate a lot of the vehicles that usually parked in the area. And we did that through a lottery that took place. We actually received 53 submissions. I have to say that 6 were invalid because 6 of them were individuals who were either affiliated or members of the House who were affiliated with either NYP, CUIMC, or New York State Psychiatric Institute. So those were dismissed. We selected 17 local residents to use the parking, and 10 additional were waitlisted in case some individuals may have drop their application process, but we're happy to report that all 17 spots were taken, and we had initially secured them for 18 months. We ended up extending it for 20 months. In addition, as many of you know, one of the commitments that we stressed during the application process was that we would extend parking privileges at a discounted rate for local residents. We extended that invitation to all 17 of the parkers. Only one took us up on it, but we're still reaching out and letting folks know that we have made spots available for local residents for overnight parking. So far, I think I can confirm that we only have one taker thus far. So one of the things that we discussed the last time we were here was on the traffic study timeline. And I just want to have a few slides just to go back to that. So as you know, in November 2016, we collected some of the pre-Plaza condition data. In 2018, that preliminary data was approved by DOT. And then I just want to remind us that during that time between the Plaza approval, where we were to collect data on post-Plaza conditions, we were placed on hold because of the water main break replacement, I'm sorry, there was a break because of the water main replacement project that was taking place. So one of the requests by the board was actually that we waited for that project to end in order for us to begin to collect that data. And then, as we all know, COVID happened, and then that continue are delayed, and subsequently we came back and collected that data for 18 months after the Plaza implementation, and last October submitted the report to DOT. I just want to remind everyone in terms of the study locations that were identified, and we see them marked here. And overall, the traffic results really reflected non-pandemic conditions, that there was actually no major impact. The last time we presented, we talked about that DOT has a special formula where they're able to account for pandemic conditions, and that it all came back noting that there were actually no major impact. Now, the big issue was also on the parking, and just to remind everyone, these were some of the on-street parking changes that we were looking and committed to work on along with DOT, which was the 5 spaces along West 169th Street, 9 spaces on Riverside Drive. The Riverside Drive spaces were the old doctor parking that we had designated along that area, and 13 spaces on St. Nicholas, and 4 spaces on 165th. So what we were able to do for this presentation is really just give you a glimpse of what these spaces looked pre-Plaza and now those changes post-Plaza on each of those. So on West 169th Street, if you recall, we had the metered parking, and we post-Plaza condition, those were changed to alternate side parking as well. As I mentioned, the doctors only parking, these were 9 spaces that were returned back to community. And as you can see below, now this is all alternate side parking. St. Nicholas Avenue, I think that's one that we all walk by every day. And this is our metered angle parking. And you see the conditions before and after as well. And this was, as I was reminded by someone, this was a post-construction change that needed to take place. But as you can see, there was a no standing any time. In post-Plaza, I guess the signage back here, it was returned to alternate side parking as well. So on the loading dock, one of the things, one of the questions that was raised is really how do we as a campus minimize our impact in the surrounding area. So we undertook a major assessment of our deliveries, worked with our various departments, one to coordinate deliveries during off-peak hours. And in addition to that, we have implemented software that allows us to monitor the uses of our loading dock. We've increased our hours, and as you can see here on 3 of our major loading docks, and we have seen significant impact in terms of loading dock deliveries. We still, this is something that we monitor on a daily basis, and that we hope to continue to minimize. I know I've gotten calls from some of you when we see a lot of these activities, and our team has, make it a special priority to really tackle this on-site delivery. I think we're happy to report that we are seeing more and more deliveries coming through the ARB, which is that Riverside Drive access of delivery. So we have seen a lot of our deliveries individuals, delivery men on foot, carrying delivers across campus. And again, we recognize that this is something that we still need to continue to work on. I think before Nick comes into the programming, I wanted to begin sharing some of the things that we quickly started to do on the plaza in order to make it more appealing. So we, as many of you will recall, we partner with NOMA to do a boiler beautification project. And this was really the beginning of the partnerships that and programming that we started at the plaza. I'm sure that many of you have visited the space and seen how lovely the boilers actually look. This is our artist, Emily, as she was working in the project throughout the many beautiful and not so beautiful days on the plaza. So I'm gonna ask Nick to pick up from here in terms of some of the programming that we've started to create at Haven Plaza.
So again, just to introduce myself, my name is Nick Hughes. I'm the Haven Plaza Programming Coordinator. For those of you who have stopped by throughout many of our events over the past couple of years, you definitely see me sort of wandering around trying to talk to as many people as possible. So I like to think I've got to meet some of you already, but for those who haven't, I haven't gotten a chance to meet you. Thank you for having me here. So one of the early ones that we were able to tackle was Healthy Haven. This actually predates me slightly. I actually started right with the start of the pandemic, very much, took on the job, as Haven Plaza was really coming to fruition and stuff. So Healthy Haven predates me slightly, but it's an example of, when at full capacity, what we can really do with the space in terms of utilizing it as both an entertainment, cultural, and educational hub for both our academia as well as our greater community. In this, you see a couple examples of things that were pretty big successes the day of, such as the domino tournament. The bottom picture is actually a CPR training that took place during this. And those are activities that we'd love to replicate, and we're actively working to continue. In these images here, again, a wide array of the different tablings, the different options that the community and community members as a whole were sort of had access to, I should say. And it was a very well attended event. I attended it as a community member, not as an employee at the time. But it was a lovely event that really brought together.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interject, Nick. So this is one of the iconic events that we hope to bring back every year. It's really not just showcasing some of the health and educational programs and activities, but also partnering with local communities to showcase some of their programming and activities. So these are some of the things that we definitely want to continue to do, and you'll see us doing on site.
So actually the very first thing I got to be very closely involved with was the return of Fort Washington's Green Market on Fort Washington and on Haven Plaza. At the start of the pandemic, we saw the market stretch further into the plaza, which was definitely a refreshing sight to see, as it allowed for social distancing between market goers as well as the vendors, tables, tents set up, and it's allowed for the market to expand over the past couple of years, with the current plans to add a couple of more vendors this upcoming summer as a couple new farms join in. And here's some images of it. As you can see in the top right image, that's sort of where it started to turn the corner now down onto the plaza. A couple of new vendors that we have there, and it's continuing to grow and expand. One of the cool things has also been the ability of internal and external groups being able to sort of table alongside the market. We've had a couple of musical performances, local artists who have showed up, whether pre-planned or spontaneously. Last summer, we had a dance group, a local dance group, just sort of show up and take over the market space one day alongside them. And it's been a very fun way to sort of bring everyone together on a really nice summer day.
And Debbie, I just want to point out, because I know when we were going through the interim plaza process with the board, one of the requests was for the market to be physically on the plaza. So in conversations with Margaret and her team, there were several reasons why this was not possible. One is the trucks. The farmers need immediate access to their goods. They need to be readily accessible. And when you look at their location along Fort Washington, it really creates a lot of visibility with the residential buildings and also our various hospital and university buildings. So they really preferred Fort Washington for visibility. However, they have expanded into the plaza. I know that many of you, I've seen some of you, our most famous bread guy is on Fort Washington. And if you're not there by 1, you're not, Mary is shaking her head, you're not getting any bread. We've actually tried to get a second vendor, but I want to reiterate the fact that they have actually stretched into the plaza, and I think right now we have about three to 4 vendors on the plaza itself.
Now, as we moved into 2021 in the summer last year, we were able to start really putting together programming, with the community. One of the highlights was a digital Saturday event in collaboration with Coach Dave and his Uptown Team Dreamers, and a race and health program at Columbia, who were able to sort of bring seniors into the Haven Plaza space. Teach them to use their personal devices, whether it be tablets, laptops, phones, for something as simple as social media connection with their relatives, to some more complex stuff like trying to get in touch with their doctors via various apps or online portals. We also had the dance project of Washington Heights sort of take over the plaza space for a couple of weeks, including with a pretty big dance show that they were able to put together for their loved ones. On August 27th, after, like I said, a couple weeks of practice out on the plaza, using whatever space they could. Then on the next slide, we have a couple of other fun uses that we were able to make out of Haven Plaza with a premiere of a digital web series by a local producer named Adrian Miranda, who we set up shop on the plaza and got a nice turnout to get his informative scientific research project going. Essentially, it's an informative web show, and he was able to display it for essentially anyone who wanted to stop by and get to talk through it. There was a Q&A with a number of the actors involved in the program itself. Then we also got to do Ribbons for Hope and Reflection, which was a Office of Religious Life sponsored event in which community members, as well as Columbia and NYP folks, were able to sort of stop by and, after a difficult stretch with the pandemic and how it impacted so many lives, be able to sort of jot down some of the things they were hoping for, some of the things they wanted to remember and reflect on from the past year, and really sort of use it as an opportunity for healing and growth. And it was, for those who were able to make it out and participate over the days that they were out there, it really became a very sentimental draw, and something very unifying about it. Also, on the larger side, we got to do Halloween Haven, which was a fun program in collaboration with the Armory. That guy looks familiar right there. Giving out candy and treats, books. We opened Haven Plaza's own little free library that's located right next to the Barnes and Noble. We were able to get a pretty sizable group in collaboration with the Armory's Uptown Games that took place the same day. Then the kids were all able to come out in their costume as different community groups members of the University NYP Armory were all able to sort of be on hand to distribute everything from, like I said, books, candies, toys, games, toothbrushes from the dental school, and demonstrations on what they should be doing after they eat all that candy.
Yeah.
Then we had Winter Haven, which was a fun sort of tree lighting celebration where we lit up Haven Plaza for the holiday season. There were tons of giveaways. We had music going the entire time, a fun holiday playlist. We got to include a number of community groups with that one. And it really did become a very fun sort of social atmosphere. Thankfully, at the start of December, not the coldest time of the year. So definitely no one ducking for cover halfway through. And then most recently, actually, our first big one for the year this year just took place this past Friday, which was our Community Shred Fest and Electronic Destruction Day. Featured obviously the shredding truck, which a great deal of people were able to take advantage of to shred some of those personal documents around their home, as well as get rid of old laptops or tablets or phones that might have personal and sensitive information. Additionally, NYPD and FDNY were on hand to do safety demonstrations, as well as they digitally electronic devices to be tracked. In the event that they're stolen. They did engraving for bikes as well as bicycle tune-ups. So there was a pretty good deal of, sort of ways to get involved and sort of engage from a safety standpoint, for our community. And then the cool thing about 2022 is the fact
We're keeping Nick busy. Okay.
Absolutely. I'm really getting to sink my teeth into it this year and really bring a wide array of programming to Haven Plaza, as things are opening up and getting better in the community. So one of the early things is a Nurture Science Fair that we're putting together, which will be sort of a community play date for our Nurture Science program, which focuses on parents of young children. We're trying to put together in collaboration with NYP. And I do not remember whose office specifically, but we're putting together a Father's Day and Men's Health Fair in early June. We're currently working with the folks from the Bronx Night Market on bringing a Haven Plaza Night Market over, as well as a food, a semi-regular food truck day that'll bring some new and exciting flavors to the community. We have a couple of more health fairs. We're doing walkthroughs right now with Inward Artworks about doing their Filmworks Alfresco series on Haven Plaza this summer to try to, do something very different. A couple of Zumba classes, dance classes, dominoes, chess, and ping pong will be coming in collaboration with Rafael Figueroa. And let's see what else. We have another Shred Fest event slated for August. The Uptown Games returning again for the Armory, likely at the end of September. Velocity we'll touch on in just a few moments, but that'll be coming back in October, as well as Halloween Haven again, and another big Winter Haven celebration. Velocity will be returning this year, October 2nd, and it's going to culminate at Haven Plaza. So for those of you who aren't totally familiar with Velocity, it's a race. It's a race to help find the cure for cancer. And it has a few different starting points based on the level of experience. And this year, we're looking forward to having it culminate at Haven Plaza at our finish line, complete with a number of ways for people who are riding and those who might just be there to support, to really get involved, get engaged.
So for Velocity, we definitely encourage all members of our community to participate. We partner with local bike shops. I believe sometime next week or the following, registrations will be open, and we, as we did last year, we'll share that with our community board and hope to have great participation from our community as well.
Yes. And here's just a few more images from all the fun stuff we were able to do last year. Everything from small tabling giveaways on the plaza to ice cream socials, musicians performing. In one of the images there, you see what is the free library that's now located next to the Barnes and Nobles.
Right there.
Yep. We've been able to really, I think, set a good foundation for what's to come. And we really, despite what the pandemic was, we were able to get a good sense of, some of the things that we're really able to do out on the plaza and really start to activate the space going forward.
Okay.
And yes, thank you guys so much.
And questions? I see some.
Just before we get to questions, and I see Mary Anderson from the committee and then Steve Simon from the board. Lyle, can I just have you unmute? And I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot with Sandra and Nick. Just if you could give us a little context on, obviously, Columbia CUIMC is, the maintenance partner here, and just sort of how this has been going. I mean, sort of a Doug's point of view, obviously you have a lot of, yes. And how, because I mean, there are now a lot of plazas, and it's always a challenge with plazas to find a maintenance partner who can meet the terms of the DOT agreement. So I'm just wondering if you can say anything about sort of how CUIMC fits in the sort of larger picture of DOT plazas and just how they're doing.
Jessica might be better to answer that question. She works in our public space division. I work
great.
Yeah, I look at Columbia, but Jessica works a little bit closer with Columbia in regards to the plaza. So she might be a better resource than I would be for this question.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's nice to meet you, Jessica. So to you then.
Thank you. So yeah, I mean, so as Sandra said, they applied to the Plaza program. I thought it was 2017, but I can go back and look and see actually when they applied. They are what we consider a high capacity partner. So they have a lot of resources. They do a great job at maintenance, and they've been doing, since the pandemic has sort of abated a bit, so that they're able to, they've been doing a great job at programming. I think Sandra specifically has made a huge effort at partnering with some of the community. Sandra and Nick, sorry, Nick, I didn't mean to leave you out.
Yes.
Have done a great job at partnering with local institutions as well. And as you know, we do have 85 plazas across the city, 66 of which are open. The others are in some form of planning or development or construction. And so we have a spectrum of partners. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. It does. And is there anything else that DOT wants to say? I mean, I guess for the benefit of the committee, because I don't know if, like we've talked about this at committee, is does DOT have any plans with the plaza? I know you sort of, my understanding is that, this has been sort of a temporary materials plaza, but you're not anticipating any changes. There's nothing you're coming to us in terms of changes. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. We will, once we start on a capital visioning process, we would come back to you with that. But we haven't started that as of yet. Any sort of capital project is not funded on the city side for this location.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go to, sorry, I'm just having a little problem with my cat sitting on my keyboard. Mary Anderson.
I just wanted to say I'm kind of excited to, see more and more programming. I live like 4 blocks away from the hospital, and you know, I go down that way frequently. The issue that I have is that very often some of the notices for the events are coming very late. For instance, the Shred Fest on Saturday, or Friday rather, I only got the day before, so I didn't really have adequate prep time. I could have brought tons more stuff if I had had, you know, lead time to get the stuff organized and over there.
Thank you, Debbie. And I'm gonna blame Ebenezer. No, I'm just kidding. That's one of the things that we're being very forceful in terms of when we send information, please, because I'm on the mailing list, and when I don't see it, I'm like, no, you didn't send that out because I didn't receive it. So one of the things that we're doing in addition to just sending it to the community board is going through our community partners list and get that information out. That has been something that people have called us about. So we're gonna have to make extra efforts to make sure that we get it out with sufficient time.
Thank you. Because I've missed some things that I would have liked to have been at, you know.
Yeah. We're gonna repeat the Shred Fest, so I'll make sure. Yeah.
But has it been going to have the notices, like, does it go to Ebenezer and
Yeah.
the office for all the
Yes.
events?
All
right.
Yes, it has. I think I don't want to throw them under the bus, but I think that they probably did not recognize Nick, and Nick sent the email, and I said, Nick, just copy me on it and then see. So then we did the formal introduction to make sure that the information went out. So, but now we're going to use the feedback we got here to make sure our mailings get first dibs. Our announcements.
All right, and Chanel, I just take note of that, and if you can talk to Ebenezer, because I don't feel like, I mean, this is these things need to go out on our mailing list. I mean, and Nick, maybe offline, I can give you some suggestions about some other neighborhood areas that you might be able to promote. Next, Bruce Robertson.
Two comments. One is bravo, Sandra and Nick. I look forward to going to the Green Market tomorrow. I think the truck should be on Fort Washington. Otherwise, you wouldn't, I don't know how you'd pull them into the plaza. Number two is maybe you want to put up a bulletin board signage with the events, because I agree with Mary. I haven't seen anything. And thank you very much for what you're doing. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Bruce. That's actually a great suggestion. We have digital signing inside, but really using space on the plaza to promote the activities. Thank you.
We were there about 2 weeks ago. Their guys were planting like 1,000 pansies in all the pots. It was like they were really, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we forget the analog world is sometimes just works best. Is there so many people walk by that area? So having some sort of, that's a great suggestion by Bruce.
Yeah.
Steve Simon? Steve?
Yeah, thank you. I have 3 quick questions. Number one, some of the photos that you showed showed activities on lawns, or maybe it's synthetic turf. Does that actually exist on the plaza itself?
Yes. So there's a couple of small green areas on Haven Plaza. So they're relatively small. So they've been utilized in different ways for the CPR training, where everyone can sort of, get down, get dirty with it. It was a big help.
Steve, I thought you had been on the plaza. You need to stop by.
I guess I didn't walk far enough in.
Yes, it's a green space.
Okay.
Hughes is closed. He doesn't go there anymore.
Okay, I'll take another look at it. Okay. Secondly, the community board itself has been talking about having an e-waste sponsoring an e-waste collection. I'm curious to know what kind of turnout did you get last Friday with people bringing in their electronic devices for disposal or to be recycled? How did that go?
Yeah, so we had about Nick, go ahead, but we had about 300 people show up.
So the
with electronic devices.
Oh, people had luggages. Nick will share.
Yeah, so a few people who showed up with suitcases. There was a gentleman who showed up with a full minivan with just boxes of shredding.
Not paper shredding.
Oh, you mean electronic destruction?
Electronic devices. Yeah, how did that?
Yeah, so it wasn't
showed up with that.
It was more of I will say for the electronic devices, it wasn't so many people, but the people who showed up with electronic devices showed up with about 10 computers apiece. It seemed like it was more community organizations who were trying to dispose safely of things that have been in their offices for
and then not stuff from the medical center itself.
I don't actually believe so. No, because we have to do all of our stuff through our IT department.
And did you partner with the Lower East Side Ecology Center? Where did the electronic devices go after you collected them?
I can follow up with public safety specifically because I know they do like a whole process once it's sort of dropped off there. Things get sort of wiped before being.
We do the event, Steve, 3 times a year.
Oh, really?
With our public safety team, so we can definitely look into that for you. And if you, Jim, is the clock. But we could definitely look into that. And if you want to coordinate something on the plaza, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll talk to you offline. My last question is for each one of these activities, is it possible to have a table in which you're encouraging all of the attendees to get vaccinated, or at least give them information, at least have somebody there with doing COVID testing? It seems to me you should be especially you're the medical center, you should be building into every one of your events some kind of outreach to help to people in this community to get them vaccinated. As you probably know, we're way behind the rest of Manhattan and the rest of the city on our vaccination rates. And I think really to make these events worthwhile, you should be helping to spread the word on both vaccinations and COVID testing.
Done. As a matter of fact, the Father's Day event, that's one of the things that we are looking into right away, to have the event out there and being able to provide vaccines. Absolutely.
And that's also something we were able to do with the Uptown Game / Halloween Haven on Haven.
I would encourage you to do it for every single activity on the plaza.
I very much like that.
Thanks, Steve. Richard Allman. Hi.
Hi.
Richard has some of our students our digital Saturdays.
We've also, from the senior center where I work, worked with a lot of the same team on doing digital Saturdays and other things in that spirit, actually including the race and health programming also. What I wanted to do right now is just add a good word for the times that Haven Plaza isn't programmed. I walked by there a number of times during the pandemic, stopped a couple times myself, and just saw people who looked in their own way so glad just to be out somewhere where there was a little bit of space. I didn't see any badges of any sort on people, so my assumption, above and beyond myself, was that it was serving the community pretty well and just met a real need there.
Thank you. That's our goal. We want to create the space where campus and community comes together. And I think that if you walk by, not just on a weekend, but on any given Saturday and Sunday, you feel that. And Mary lives in the area, so she can tell you, you feel it. Yeah.
Richard, that's such an excellent point and eloquently put, just sort of what it looks like between the programming. The programming is important as well, but I appreciate your input. Maria Luna?
Thank you so much. I am so happy to hear and to see the presentation by Sandra, since I was one of the people who urged the plaza to be open because I wanted to make sure that the community and the institution were together. The people who goes to the those buildings to see doctors also use the plaza to relax and to wait for their appointments. I gained so many enemies, but I gained so many more friends, because this is an example of the work that we are really want to do in our communities. the beauty of the programs that are happening there. So I am so glad. Thank you so much, Colombia. Sandra and the team that put this thing together from the beginning. I am glad to see, and also to see something like as Steve was, was mentioning about the vaccine and things like that. There is a lot of things that we could do, not just opening areas for just traffic to go by. I think the community is speaking and the community is giving the support for this. So thank you so much for that. So I am glad that I joined from the beginning on this this particular movement. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. And it is interesting to me that sort of in a short amount of time, how differently we have started to think about streets and how we use them, something that was in the air before the pandemic, but certainly the pandemic really, really shifted things. I'm going to move to our attendee list. So again, for attendees, you've got 2 minutes to ask your questions. So we're not right now just questions on this topic before we move on to our next 2 agenda items. So I first have Mig, if you can give your full name, and let me just, you should be able to unmute. Mig? All right, I'm going to move to Emily Marte.
Hi, everyone.
Emily.
Can you
Hi,
hear me?
Emily.
Hi.
Yeah. So this is incredible. I am so happy that the space has been used this way, and I'm actually extremely excited to hear about all of this in the different plazas. I am, however, curious to know, I know that one of the other members mentioned like about outreach and using a certain method, but I am curious to know your strategy on outreach, just because I find that me being as involved as I am, and I live in 158 in Riverside, I've never heard of any of these events, and I just kind of want to know, like, maybe the demographic of the people that do attend, or the populations that you reach out to and actually come to these events, if there's outreach to like Spanish speaking population, just because I really never heard about any of this.
Sure, Emily, thanks for that question. So a lot of the outreach that we do for the Plaza is with our partner organizations. So you heard it's one is through our community board and getting information out. We also work with different community-based organizations, our partners, and we share the information. We have used the Manhattan Times to advertise for some of the event. I know when we did the Baller Project with NOMA, we used that medium as well. But I think that some of the recommendations tonight in terms of, what can we have outdoors on campus for people who are walking by to see. We really rely, and I think it's building more that relationship with the board to just sort of push maybe to have all of our events run through the board. I know it's a lot to ask to say, can you just share this mailings with the general public, but we're definitely going to work harder on doing that. And then I would say you're on 158. So Maria, we need to get more local residents in the area, more information. But I think that one thing we can do is continue to use our local organizations. We don't have a way to get to our residents, but the events are also posted on our website. So it's one of the things that we can share here with the link of going on our website and seeing on our calendar of events. So all of the Plaza activities are posted in the university calendar and in our government and community affairs calendar. But again, I think Bruce's suggestion is it's great, and we're going to look into how do we publicize the events outdoor in the campus surrounding area.
And would there be, like, part of my question was also like collecting data on the people that do attend, although I know that would be difficult because it's an open space.
Yeah.
But that's just to see like who's in the outreach circle.
Sure. So we do collect data. I mean, there's observational, we have a clicker, we have a sense of who's internal, who's community. In terms of the populations that participate in our events, because we work with our partner organization, it is representatives of the members of the community. So for example, we partner with Club Deportivo to have a tournament. So a lot of that, they do their own outreach. So it's very representative of the groups that we're working with. When we're working with the Armory, we're going to get a lot of the young people in the after school programs in the area. So it really depends on who the partner is engaged in our programming. And remember that it is not just our programming, community groups can also use the space to program. So a lot of times they reach out to their own clients and the people that they serve when they're hosting these events as well.
Oh, nice. Great.
Yeah.
And also, so sorry, just one more question. I wanted to know about vendors, like if y'all reach out or they reach out to you, and if it's really competitive, the ones that are in your events, the annual event.
Yeah, so we don't have vendors. We partner with community organizations, Emily. So we are planning some events that will have vendors. For example, we want to do a community with artists. We want to have a truck festival, but these are all things that we have to sort out with DOT, because when it comes to vending, there's no vending on Plaza. So we have to get special permits to do those types of events. But those are events that we are planning to work on. And, you know, I'll be happy to share our email and our contacts so you can follow up with us and we can talk a little bit more about vending once we get to those events.
And forgive me because Emily, you're a board member. Yes, right?
I know.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think I recognize you, but I was just saying yes.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I was like, wait a minute. And Emily, as you could tell, has just a lot of expertise and point of view about, you know, how to really attack outreach and be thoughtful about outreach, which is something that I think on a lot of different levels, you know, the board has not struggled with, but it's coming up a lot in sort of how to deepen things. Okay, so thank you to Sandra and Nick, and I know Ross is out there as well.
Yes.
To Lyle, to Jessica, for bringing this update. We waited a long time. This was it was a fraught process, obviously, to get to this point where we can start looking at how the Plaza actually is. And I think we're all pleased to hear that there's a lot of good programming coming out, and just look forward to, you know, maybe just, you know, trying to get more people aware of what's happening in the Plaza as we can. And it was nice to meet you, Nick. And, you know, hopefully you can come back again in the future and give us an update again.
We will. Thank you for having us.
And Lyle, I'm still going to keep you around because you're going to be involved in absolutely everything tonight. And Jessica, I imagine this ends your portion. Thank you for sticking with us tonight. It was nice to meet you.
Nope, I have one more.
Oh,
yeah, she's going to join the next topic as well.
Oh, okay, great.
Human two-way conversion.
Oh, that's right, because that goes with the Plaza. Actually, I'm glad you're here on that. I don't know why I'm brain blapping.
Surprise.
Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is the resolution in support of the two-way conversion of Seaman Avenue between Dykeman and Riverside Drive. To recap sort of where that's been, that obviously came up at the 2 June and September 2021 presentations by DOT on as part of the presentations for the what is now Cascaya Plaza. And then, but we didn't resolve on it at the time. And then now that you're getting ready to construct it, DOT was looking for a resolution. And I kind of fumbled the ball in thinking that this was going to be on the May agenda. And then it became clear in April that there wasn't sort of new content about the conversion. At the time in June and September, people didn't really have a ton of comments, but comments we did have were positive on the change. But it wasn't on the April agenda, so we have it on the agenda tonight. So we wanted to give one more opportunity for people in the public to respond to it, because it hasn't been around since September of 2021 as a topic on the agenda. But Jessica, I guess this would then be you. If you, before we open it up to comments from panelists or attendees, I think one thing, a question, just if you could make comments about sort of where the conversion recommendation came from was, I think it related to the fact that you were closing the street on Dykeman between Riverside and Broadway. But if you could speak to that, it's actually, when you go back and look at the slide, which maybe you can pull up again, it's sort of said between the lines, but it's not really dealt with explicitly. So I think it would be helpful for people for you to tell that story a little bit of like where that part of the recommendation came from.
Yeah, and actually I do have a couple slides. So if you could allow me to share screen.
I'm hoping you can. If not, Chanel has heard you and she will allow you to.
Great. Great, here I am. Isn't it? Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Great. So just a reminder, we have Cascaya Plaza, we have the two-way bike connection, we have the restaurants here. You know, the plaza really came out of the success of the open street that the restaurants ran. It's a little bit of the project background. We collected the traffic counts in June of 2021. You guys voted in support of the plaza in June also of 2021. We completed the traffic study in August of 2021. We updated you guys in September and included the two-way conversion. And then we implemented the plaza in the fall, and we had a ribbon cutting in December. And then, so these are the existing conditions now, right? So again, the Cascaya Plaza, the two-way bike connection, here's Seaman Ave, and Seaman Ave is currently one-way southbound. And so the proposal is to convert it to two-way. And so what that accomplishes is, let's see, I'm gonna see if I can annotate maybe. Let's do this. So, whereas you used to be able to do that, right? Now with the two-way conversion, you can do this and then do this to get to that other side, right? That's the whole point. It's a reroute, and it's just maintaining that access to Seaman Avenue. It originally came as a recommendation from the restaurants, but then we heard further from some of the residents of Seaman Avenue that they wanted that access. And so, yeah, so.
And I think the gas station had also requested it.
Oh, thank you.
Time. I mean, just in terms of the businesses that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so we're back here tonight. And, you know, if you guys vote in support, then we would implement likely in June. We can update you guys as soon as we have the exact date that we would be implementing those changes.
Okay. Let me just actually, can you just unshare for a minute?
Yeah.
Sorry, I have a little bit of a computer problem, so it's just easier for me to see what's happening.
Yes.
If I'm this way. Okay. So, is Mig back? Mig had a comment about this. Okay. We'll see. When Mig comes back, Mig can make a comment. Joseph Wolferman.
Can you hear me?
Now we can. Hi, Joseph.
There you are, unmuted. So I live in 1825, Riverside. And one of the problems, especially with the express buses, has been vibration. Most of the buses do not cause vibration. However, a loaded bus with a heavy battery causes noticeable trembling. So why is it that the parking spaces have been eliminated on the west side of Seaman, closer to the residential building, but not, if I understand correctly, on the easterly side, closer to the garden? That would reduce vibration.
Is it all right if I go back to sharing screen so that I can point?
Please.
Yeah, that's fine.
So it's really a question of alignment, right? So right now, I'm not sure if you can see the screen, but right now there's already kind of a jog to the left to align the northbound lane with the existing northbound lane. And so in terms of alignment and also in terms of maintaining access to these driveways, we both lost less parking on the driveway side than we would have on the park side. And we also maintained that alignment.
Yeah, the access to the driveways to the gas station has never been an issue. And the problem with the alignment is created by the placement of the traffic stoppers, do I say bollards, which extend out to the west into Seaman Avenue. Not necessary.
Yeah, I mean, so we do this as a typical practice to shorten crossings. So shorten the distance that pedestrians are in the street versus in the pedestrian space. So that is a traffic safety measure that was part of the Plaza design.
Not good for the building.
Okay. Thank you for being here, Mr. Wolferman. Okay, Jim, I see you wanted.
I have a question for Mr. Wolferman. Let me just touch something. What you say when buses go by, something vibrates. Is it your building that's vibrating?
Certainly.
And,
sorry, go on.
well, no, I want to know, you know, and if in fact your building is vibrating, then I would hope and presume that someone contacted the Department of Buildings to make sure nothing strange is going on, because, you know, I was in a 300-year-old house in you know, Leiden in Holland. That shook when things went by, but, you know, around here, most of the time things don't shake that I know of. So, you know, this sounds very concerning to me.
Yeah, I spoke to the super. Apparently, I'm not the only one who has mentioned it, but it appears that I'm the only one who's speaking to the Traffic and Transportation Committee.
Well, like I said, it's important, I would think, that you actually speak to the Department of Buildings, because I don't know, and people can contradict me, but I don't think when trucks go by any of our other buildings or buses, they vibrate. So this, again, sounds abnormal, and you really want to escalate the matter. And don't talk to the super, call 311 and make an actual complaint that your building shakes. I presume that's what's happening when buses go by, and you find this very troubling. That's really what you need to do from my point of view.
Thank you.
Is
You're
this
very welcome.
Thanks, Jim.
But to return to the point, this could all be minimized by leaving the parking spaces on the west side, where there has never been a problem with the driveways, and removing the parking spaces, excuse me, from the east side to create a traffic
Okay,
lane.
Mr. Wolferman, we can't actually
Yes.
have back and forths, but I think we got the point.
What will the action be?
You've just made your point. It's not, I don't think the DOT is, I mean, if the committee decides to ask for a design change, I guess that's one thing, but we're right now considering the design as presented. And, you know, I will just say that you would lose a lot more parking spots. And we've also had a lot of feedback. We always have a lot of feedback from the community about trying to minimize that loss of parking spots as best as, okay, we're not having a back and forth, but I am, and we have gone beyond the 3 minutes on that point. I'm going to move to Marcia Gordon. Oh, sorry. I need to.
Do you want me to stop sharing again?
Yeah, I wish I knew how to do it. Yeah, I could explain what my problem is, but it's boring. Okay. Marcia, you should be able to unmute now.
Thank you. Yes. I'm new to this topic, so forgive me. I saw just now that there was a right turn when you're westbound on Riverside at Seaman Avenue. That's what you just had shown, Jessica.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's a funny, sharp right to me, right? So I'm a pedestrian. I've lived here 28 years, and I'm already having issues of being terrified frequently, and having been very close to being killed at Riverside and Payson Avenue. I'm really not keen on this two-way piece of Seaman. Plus, Seaman is also used as a back road from Broadway to circumvent traffic. So this will increase that. I can't imagine the people on Seaman would want it. I'm very shocked, but it would increase the use of that. And you can, I guess my question for the moment is, you can make a left turn off of Riverside heading up Seaman in this proposal?
That's right.
Yes.
Well, then I just voice my extreme negative opinion of this proposal, because I just, I'm not a car owner. I'm not belly aching about parking. I'm a pedestrian, but I'm also just concerned about, I'm a member of the Ring Garden, have been for many years. I don't feel like it's a benefit to the Ring Garden in any way to have two-way traffic and honking and who knows what else might accompany it. I'm just trying to get my head around what is the pro about this. And so I've missed other presentations, and I'm sorry about that. So I don't know if there were any. but you show that this could be implemented as soon as next month. I mean,
yeah, we had originally intended for it to be implemented in the fall with the rest of the plaza.
And that's because there's a change to the plaza in its configuration.
So it's
a different topic, but
yeah. So we're not changing the plaza. The reroute is necessary because of the plaza, right? So you used to be able to go through Dykeman, and now you can't. And so allowing access from Riverside onto Seaman.
Okay, I mean, if that's the reason, but I still think it's a terrible reason. I have no idea why that's beneficial. So I just expressed my negative feelings about this. And actually, I do have a question, which is probably not pertinent to those darn plants and coming from the subway crossing to Starbucks and then trying to get home onto Riverside Drive. I live at 1803 at Payson, and those are inconvenient. In any event, I've taken too much time. I really, really hope that the committee turns this down. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
No, you've been here before, so thank you for being here. I will say that part of our discussion in the past has also been that we're sort of wondering, does this take some pressure off the left at Henshaw, which has been highly problematic, and then requires you to then jockey over on Dykeman to Seaman and Jug Handle. So there was sort of that aspect as well, that sort of, because we've heard a lot of comments about the Henshaw turn, but that was less a driver of DOT so much as something that the committee had noted over time.
Historically, that's true. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. But thank you for being here. Catherine, are you still here? Yeah, you're still here. Catherine O'Sullivan, you should be good to, there you are.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about this thing being discussed a few times, but really in June, we were told it would be discussed in September. In September, it got 2 minutes. And by the way, I've never seen the study. I'd like to know a bit more about the actual study that was done by DOT. I emailed them and I got no response. So okay, we heard Henshaw is a problem. It's a problem because there's a restaurant taking up half the street and a lot of double parked cars. Jim Berlin was anxious about the double parked cars and the backed up traffic on Seaman Avenue in September, but I guess he doesn't really care about that anymore. But I can tell you that it hasn't diminished. There's still backups of traffic on Seaman Avenue. So what I want to know is, because this junction of Seaman Avenue and Riverside Drive is very dangerous. Marcia isn't the only one who's been really killed. There's been other crashes when people hang illegal UEs and decide to go the wrong way up Seaman Avenue anyway, and the bikes that drive on the sidewalk. But, DOT doesn't concern themselves with that, which is a problem. I wish they would. So are you going to have a traffic light that will indicate when the left turn is allowed? Are you going to do anything to diminish the speeding on Riverside Drive? Okay, that's question 2. And are you going to come back and review this in 6 months if it isn't working, if it's worse?
So on Riverside Drive, that wasn't part of this proposal. I will take it back and see if there's anything we can do, and anything that we can, not likely in the next month, but anything that we can start to work on for Riverside Drive. We don't typically review things like this 6 months in. So unless the committee requires that we come back, we wouldn't come back.
Okay.
Is there a study that you can share with the public?
Catherine?
Can I have a chat? Please, Debbie, You know, we don't get a
Let's
lot
not
of
have a lot
time
of
to
back and
talk
forth.
here, and we don't even know who's in the meeting room with us. So indulge me a minute. I'd like to see the study.
I can share the data with you, and
That'd be great.
Sure. Great.
Okay. So, all right. So okay. So that's covered the traffic study part. Jessica, one thing that the committee had sort of understood to be the case, but let's clarify, is that there would be a left turn, like there would be a left turn lane and a straight lane, that we're not causing a backup with people making the left on Seaman, right? Or that it, you know what I mean? Like that. So when you're going eastbound, or, you know, what I consider eastbound on Riverside, let's say coming off the highway, and if you were to make the left onto Seaman, that there would be some marking there for the left turn. And then I would say the speeding thing has been something that we followed up on. Lyle has worked, again, particularly around Henshaw, because people really have a head of speed coming off the highway. And so maybe if Lyle could take that part of it, of just sort of what we're doing to look. And I would say, Jessica, just writ large, our expectation is that with such a big change as a two-way conversion, that we are definitely going to want you to come back. And we need to check in and to see how it's going. I was reminded by Ebenezer Smith, the district manager, that long ago this was two-way, and there were reasons to make it one way, and now we are potentially going to move back to two-way, and that we have to keep an eye on it.
Can I just say to Lyle, thanks for the planters, you know, to stop the cars driving on the sidewalk by my building.
Yeah, that was thanks to both of you, Lyle and Catherine together. I mean, that was really an insane situation. And you coming up with something that was like simple yet so effective was fantastic. But yeah, so Jessica or Lyle, I mean, I don't, if you could just say anything about the left turn and then the marking. And then also, Lyle, if you could just comment on sort of speeding. Is there going to be a camera over there? Like, sort of, do you have anything to say, having watched that be a problem the past couple of years?
Yeah, I was just gonna mention, as far as the questions in regards to Riverside, just in general, and the speeding, that is a topic that we have discussed. That's something that DOT is taking a look at currently. There is no set plan as far as any sort of traffic calming to this point. What I wanted to do, I think we had mentioned at a previous meeting, was to ideally set up a walkthrough at some point, maybe with some of the residents, just to kind of, you know, hear from the residents' point of view on Riverside, along that stretch, basically from Broadway to Henshaw, what was going on. We had a few over the past couple of years. So if the committee, the community board want to set something up sometime in the near future, I can go up there and we can have a conversation on site. Any suggestions that, you know, residents may have, you know, or a further conversation, we can definitely have that on site. Ideally, maybe in the next couple of weeks, we can put it on the calendar, maybe have a further conversation, you know, just talking about that stretch of Riverside in detail, and maybe get the ball rolling on a couple of things.
Okay. Emily? Oh, wait, actually, before we go to Emily, just the left turn marking. Sorry, Jessica, did you answer that?
No, I did not answer it. So we don't have it drawn currently as a left turn only lane. I can follow up with our geometric design team and see if we can add that in, but I don't think that our analysis included it as a left turn only lane.
Or a left and straight, but you can't have it.
We
just
have a
be
left and through lane.
Yeah.
But yeah, we hadn't included it as a left turn only lane.
Right. Emily?
Hi. So I'm so sorry. Forgive me if I'm asking a question that was already answered in the past meetings. because I wasn't present for it. But I do want to know, now that Debbie mentioned that in the past it was a two-way, then it was converted to a one-way for certain reasons, and now because the public wants it, they're gonna convert it back to a two-way. So who's to say that like they won't convert it back to one-way unless there's something different that's being done for this particular two-way that wasn't done before to prevent it to turning back to a one-way long ago from like what Debbie just said. So I don't know how to like simplify that question, but like if we're going to turn it to a two-way, you know, what's being done differently so that we could prevent it to going, you know, this whole back and forth of one-way, two-way.
Yeah. So I don't know the history, so I don't know why it was converted from two-way to one-way. Again, I can take that back and get back to you guys on what the rationale was. I think the difference here now, though, Debbie, I'm going to share screen again super quick. But the difference here now is just one of need, right? Again, the idea here is so pre-Plaza, you could go straight through. With the Plaza there now, there's no vehicular access. And so now if you are coming from the east to get to the other side of Dykeman, you have to come through Seaman, or you don't have to, but this is accommodating that movement. Does that make sense, Emily?
Yeah, and I assumed that was it. It was just like an access thing, but how is converting it back to a two-way going to prevent it to like going back to a one-way if that was an issue in the past? Like what? That was my curiosity.
Well, okay, so let me actually step in here. So Emily, that's why the resolution has a sort of note about, you know, to make sure that the signal timing works at Dykeman and Seaman, because I think the problem is, and it happens in the other direction sometimes coming south on Seaman, is that like if you can't really you don't want people stacking up like the whole block between Dykeman and Riverside, and like and that so people are starting to stack up on Riverside because they're waiting to make that left, let's say. So like that is again something that we need to watch and see if there's any signal time adjustment needed, so that it doesn't back up, which sometimes happens when you're coming southbound, that you can't get across Dykeman. Anyway, all right, Jim's showing me the time on that.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think years and years ago it had something to do with just the way things were backing up there. Okay. Mig, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Hi.
Hi. I just wanted to say that, you know, I think it's going to be a disaster, only because people tend to double park, to talk, to pick up food. You have people congregating, and the gas station doesn't help a lot because the gas station has cars on the sidewalks as well. That whole Dykeman, Riverside is a disaster. And that plaza, I really want to know what they do there on the plaza, because I don't see anything there for people sitting down drinking. But I just find it's going to be a disaster when you're making that right on Seaman, and I can just see people double parking and forget Henshaw. I mean, that's a disaster waiting to happen. So, you know, I'm just concerned. I'm just concerned because I think someone else said that they almost got killed. I'm afraid to cross the street. Not only do we have cars parked on crosswalks, we have cars that park on fire hydrants. We got cars that does double parking, and that Seaman is a hotbed. So I don't know what study you guys have been doing. I don't know if you guys live around this community, but I live here every single day for the last 30 some odd years, and it's just gotten worse. So I'm really hoping that this works, and God help us all. That's all. It's just not. This is not a good community in terms of traffic. These streets are very small. They make right turns, and they just get stuck with traffic because people are inconsiderate. And Mama Sushi, that corner has nothing but double parked cars. You can't even make that right turn there a lot of times because they double parked either talk, to have a drink, or to pick up food. And the traffic gets stalled all the way up to 207. So I don't know if you guys see this. I'm not really sure whoever, wanted to have this get done because of that traffic on Dykeman. But you really need to see it on a good sunny day or a good, nice, warm evening and see what kind of traffic you have there. It's not a good one. So I'm hoping that you guys revisit this and hopefully you turn it down, honestly. So that's my take.
Mick, thank you for being here, and thank you. I know I think we have a few first timers, and I always say, and I think everybody feels this way, being on Zoom has allowed easier access to a lot of people, and we appreciate you coming out and joining and engaging. Sometimes we'll come out.
When you have something, for me, it's something serious because, again, crossing the street, you have to really pray that you don't get hit by a car that wants to eat the red light, or a bicycle that wants to come by and hit you. So I understand, what the other person was saying, but just that right turn only because they do a lot of double parking there and they sit to talk. They talk.
All right, Mick, I think we actually need to wrap this one up.
Not a problem.
I guess, Steve, actually, did you have something before we wrap this one up? Or is that an old hand?
No, it's new. It sounds like you're talking about making some kind of an adjustment for the eastbound traffic that would turn left onto Seaman. But I would be, seems to me maybe a similar adjustment would have to be made for the westbound traffic that would have to turn right onto Seaman. So if there's a change in the signals that allow some time for people to make those turns, I would suggest that it be done for people traveling in both directions.
Right. Okay.
My hand is up.
Okay, I didn't realize it was a new one. Jim, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah. Two things. When there are problems with traffic and double parking and people who drive in reckless manners, this cannot all be solved by the Department of Transportation. That's what we have a police department for. And so a lot of these things are enforcement issues. So that's number one. And it's a very real part of the problem. Now, the other thing is, based upon what we've heard tonight, well, let me preface this. And I'm timing myself, by the way. Let me preface this by saying that this particular area, as has been pointed out tonight, and I walk around there all the time because I come out of the park anyway, this particular area has just huge amounts of traffic, and for whatever reason, drivers are not behaving any better recently than they used to. In fact, they're much worse. So when you have a traffic arrangement, let's call it that, that already has all this traffic and all these stresses and scares the hell out of people. And then you make a change. The possibility is that this change could get very bad very quickly, because there may be something, and I don't want to denigrate the Department of Transportation. I have great respect for their experts, but there may be some unanticipated thing or even anticipated thing that, you know, is going to come and just wreak havoc. Therefore, what I should, not only do we want, you know, the report in 6 months, certainly for the week or two or whatever, when this thing is installed, we expect DOT either with, you know, human beings or with monitoring equipment to make sure that something really terrible doesn't happen. And if it does, then they have to make it go away real quick. And we've had situations, you know, similarly where, you know, people are very afraid. And sometimes, most of the time, I would actually say DOT was correct, because we just heard that by the traffic down on Riverside Drive, way south of you. But so that would be my addition to the resolution, that we want this you know, early monitoring as well, to make sure that, you know, nothing you know, unfortunate and unanticipated happens. And by the way, thank you.
Very good. I agree, and I was going to say the same thing, that let's modify the resolution to make more explicit. And DOT, I mean, I know this isn't the best way, but it is a conversion of a one-way street to a two-way street. So will you be able to engage NYPD traffic enforcement to be out there at least the first week, but potentially longer, a little longer?
You can reach out to them and explain the situation. Yeah, we can give them a heads up.
Yeah, I don't think that we can be left to our own devices in this situation. Because I mean, that whole strip, it's true, as has come up a lot tonight, is everybody feels if you're on foot, you feel very vulnerable. And there's no silver bullet here. I mean, we've been hearing this stuff for years and all of that. But what we can do is try to, you know, be as protected as possible and be as thoughtful as possible. Okay. So, Jim, do we need to revote this, right, as a committee?
If we change it, which we're going to do, then this will be an amended resolution and we have to vote again. Okay. And I think the other thing, and again, I don't want to sound, you know, in fact, I'm not always in love with DOT, but again, most of the time, you know, they do, you know, they have a very thoughtful, very technical process. And the other thing that's a key part of the process, and again, don't think I'm advertising for you guys, although I respect you. Inherent in their process is safety. That's what this is all about. And in fact, tragically, as we know, vision zero has been vision way hell more than zero and in fact, things are getting worse. So I think this is something DOT is well aware of. And you know, when Lyle reaches out to the police contacts, you know, they can be reminded of our safety as well. But I'm sure that this plan, you know, has safety aspects and you know, if implement, and again, basically based upon what we're going to say, if it suddenly stops working or something strange happens, then it's got to be stopped right away. And we've had that with other, you know, traffic situations where we've made similar requests.
Okay. So let's go to a vote. Sorry, we still have a few more things to get through tonight, so I want to try to keep this moving. So we would be voting on an amendment resolution as compared to what we what was presented and what we came up with in April. And then, because something I started to pose before we sent back to committee is, while we have it in the whereas, is do we want to call out in the resolved, sort of requesting that DOT search the area to try to pick up some parking spots?
We could do that, and I think, if it's not directly in a resolve, these issues of both the report we get in 6 months and the early, necessary observation, that has to actually be in a resolve too, because this is what we're asking them to do.
No, I understand that. We are amending it to add the update on it to a resolved. I'm just asking if people want to see, again, the resolution as written sort of mentioned that, we've asked DOT to, a request came up to look up in the broader area to see if there could be any parking spots identified. It's in the whereas, it's not in the resolved. I'm fine with the way it is. If people want it in the resolved, then speak now.
Technically, it should be in the resolve because this is, again, something we're asking them to do. Okay. So you just copy the sentence or whatever.
Okay.
And this should be, and this is a strange situation, but of course there will be more electric cars that will take up room and annoy people, but they won't be polluting the air. Insofar as parking can be found, most of the people in this neighborhood don't have cars to play around with.
Yeah.
They're important.
Okay. Bruce, is that a new hand?
Yeah, doesn't this go without saying that DOT is always looking to expand parking wherever possible, and why put them on the spot? And, is it really necessary to point this out?
Yeah, I can live without it. I mean, I can live with it the way we have it, certainly. Yeah.
To me, it raises just another point that somebody could have said. Well, you asked DOT to give me a parking spot and you didn't do it, and bad on you.
Yeah, and maybe we can finesse
I'm fine either way. I'm not going to make a big fuss.
Yeah, and I think we can finesse it in the sort of what we're asking that we want to discuss, as in the follow-up. We can circle back on it as part of that process. Okay, so we are going to, David Rose. This is going to be the last comment on this topic before we vote.
Hi, we live at 1825 Riverside Drive, and our living room window faces the intersection of Seaman and Dykeman. And at any hour of the day, any day of the week, you see the most hideous movements with traffic. Mostly, like an earlier speaker mentioned, the double parked cars. And oftentimes there'll be 2, sometimes 3 cars on one side of the street, double parked, and on the other opposing side of the street, there's another car or 2, or maybe even 3, so that it limits traffic flow to one lane. And I've seen ambulances with the lights flaring and the siren blasting and no movement at all because of these double parked cars. And if you make it 2 ways on Seaman, south of Dykeman, it's going to just exacerbate the problem more so, because it'll only be 1 car able to pass. And what happens is it backs up traffic for blocks. And as one of the ladies said, it's a diabolical situation if this thing passes. I really struck for the safety of the neighborhood and also for the city, the ambulances and the police cars, that you have to have some kind of traffic flow. And what's being proposed is just the opposite of what needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you for being here and your comment. Okay, I'm going to go through a roll call of the committee.
Can we just go through this one more time? What are we voting on?
So the resolution is presented at committee last month with an added resolved going to the monitoring and follow-up on the two-way conversion.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying them, Bruce. Okay, so I'm just going to start in the order I have it on my screen, so it's not going to be alphabetical. Bruce?
Yes, thank you.
Jim Berlin?
Yeah. Yes.
Jay Mazer?
Yes.
Wait, I feel like I lost somebody.
Me.
Oh, God. Why are you not on my... Mary?
Yes.
And I vote yes. And now I'm going to go to, I still don't understand why I can't see. Oh, there you are, Mary. So now I'm going to go if Maria Luna, do you want to vote?
Yes, but I'm voting no.
Okay. Steve Simon?
Are we including language about the right and left-hand turns?
The marking?
No? All right.
I mean, the left hand, there is language about the left turn, it's calling it out explicitly. So you're saying to also have the same markings and indications on the right hand, or are you talking about the signal timing?
Well, something's got to be done to control the people turning onto that street in order to make sure it doesn't become a hazard. So I'm concerned about, I haven't seen this resolution, so I'm not sure what the wording says. I'll abstain.
Okay. All right.
Marshall.
Marshall?
Can you hear?
Yeah. Hi. Yeah.
No, I'll abstain.
Okay. And then I'm gonna, let me just see if I can get, I'm gonna lower all the hands in the attendee. And then, because I know we have a number of attendees who are not in favor of this resolution. So what I want in the attendee, I want you to raise your hand, actually, if you're voting no. Keep your hand down if you're voting in support. Can I ask you to do that? Just because I want you to be able
But
to.
you have another board member.
Oh, I'm sorry, Emily. Emily, can you just go by voice, please?
Sure. I think I'll have to say no, or I don't know if I should abstain. I don't know about the rules. There's still a lot of questions that I have, but I'll just say no.
Okay. Got it.
I don't know how I did it.
Okay.
It's down here, isn't it? Not here. Can you make a bigger screen?
It's not working for me.
Or actually, let's do it another way.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just call you off because you came out tonight. Let's just do it individually as well. David Rose?
No.
Okay. And Marcia Gordon?
No.
Joseph Wolferman? Oh, wait, I'm gonna get you. Okay.
Can you hear me? The vote
Now
is
I can-
no. Yeah,
Okay,
the vote is
gotcha.
no.
Catherine
You're
No.
not watching TV. You're like, yum yum.
and Maria, do you want to vote on this one or not?
But Maria Luna, I voted no.
No. I'm sorry, Maria Ryden.
Oh.
I think she's here for another matter. So let me just get that marked down because I'm doing all the attendees. No. So Marcia, David, Catherine, Joseph. Okay, got it. All right. Thank you all for being here tonight. This will
So
go.
what was the committee vote?
The
The final
committee
summary.
is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the committee vote in favor. Yeah.
So what was it again? 5 in favor and
No opposed on the committee, and then amongst board members, 2 noes and an abstain.
okay.
And
Thank you.
Marshall, public member, abstaining as well. So 2 abstentions.
Now the public member's vote counts as though he were a full committee member.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
Yes.
Okay. So just this, as people know the drill, but maybe not. This will come in front of the full board. It is not a passed resolution until it passes the full board. And that meeting is, can somebody help me out, the date of the full board meeting? Chanel?
Should be May 24th.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Again, thank you for making time to come out tonight. So now we're going to move to, I'm going to hand things to Jim Berlin to talk to us about Broadway Bridge. Jim, if you can you kind of keep it to less than 5 minutes?
I can keep it to 10 seconds. They said they were
Bye,
going to
Jessica.
get back.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, maybe not 10 seconds. They said they were going to get back to both me and the committee by this meeting. Is Lyle still with us? No,
I'm
yes.
still here, yes.
So anyway, that's what they sent a letter to me. I forget her name, the public relations person.
Yeah,
And they said they would get back to me and the committee by, I would have thought by now. Now, it may be that it's taking them longer to look into it. And insofar as this longer look might get them to, see the wisdom of what we are suggesting, I'm not going to make a fuss, but, I think Debbie got a copy of the email also, but we can share it with you. And again, that I take your department at its word. They are looking into it, and they will get back to us. But they did not meet the schedule that they said they were going to.
Yeah, I reached out to Jolene in the Bridges Division earlier today in anticipation for this meeting, and she did mention that they are still developing the response to your comments. So they will have a formal response to your letter in the near future. They didn't give me a time, but they did acknowledge that they do owe you a response. It's just a matter of when, but I will stay on them to give you.
Me and the committee, of course.
Well, but Jim, in the first instance, that was you writing on your own.
Well, that's
now
true,
that we
right.
put it in front of the
and
committee.
again, they said they were going to respond, and I'm sure they will. Why wouldn't they not?
Jim, do you mind if we then give them till the June meeting? And then we can-
Absolutely. We can even
Okay.
give them till the September meeting, as long as, again, I mean, for all we know, their response unlikely might be, what a clever idea. Yes, we're going to do what you ask, unlikely, but, who knows what they're, But, no, I have no problem with that at all.
Okay, I appreciate that because it's 9:38. And I want to just touch upon, I guess, 1.5 more things. Sort of something that came to me as new business today, except that it's super old business because it's something this committee has, we hear from people about it. It comes up in different forms. And that is, and especially while we still have Julio here, are the issues of congestion between 165th and 168th on Fort Washington, particularly in certain time blocks of the day. And while this is something that we've certainly talked about over time, and I have talked to Sandra Harris about, I do think that what I'd like to do maybe is schedule this to talk more about at the June meeting, because it has been a while. While it includes CUIMC, it includes NYP, it includes NYPD, and potentially DOT. So I would like a little time to kind of see who all we can get together. But actually, Maria Ryden, wait, let me just, do you want to say a few things about this? And then we'll discuss, having this as an agenda item in June. Oh wait, did we lose her? All right. So if that's okay, I'd like to kind of keep that on the agenda. Julio, do you think that would be okay? Are you still with us?
No, I'm still here. I mean, what I like to know a little bit more, sort of the context of, the June meeting, and I wholly agree with you with that there is a lot of traffic on that stretch, and it's been like that for as long as I can recall. But
yeah,
I mean, a little more context in terms of the meeting and what we want to resolve in terms of
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, my idea at least would be, again, to get as many sort of stakeholders in the problem and just do a check-in. And I felt like with the Haven Plaza update, I mean, it's just only one tiny bit, but sort of how CUIMC is dealing with deliveries. Okay, so that's one element potentially of congestion. And then just sort of understanding how you guys approach it, and people turning into Milstein, for example. And then, I'll certainly try to get maybe some NYPD traffic enforcement, but then we often hear reports, for example, which about to hear, examples of, if we can get traffic enforcement, but we're also hearing of like people parking, in the M4 bus stops, and if DOT maybe would be able to contribute a little bit about sort of non-CUIMC loading issues in the area and that kind of thing. And let's just try to see like what's changed. I mean, I think there was an added like mid-block crossing. Am I right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So like the committee hasn't heard about that, but just kind of get updated and like where we are, what it looks like, what are the times of day, are we maximizing like everybody's piece of this?
Gotcha.
Because it sounds like NYP and CUIMC have tried to innovate a little bit. I don't know I'm not down there enough to know sort of how much enforcement presence there is. But we do often hear, I mean, we hear about, people talk about impacts on the M4 quite often, the committee has heard. So I just think it wouldn't be bad to just have a check-in. I'm not saying it would necessarily turn into a resolution. Maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't. But I think we need to kind of have a check-in about it, because I don't think we've done it sort of as a committee in a while.
That sounds like a great idea, and it reminds me of Edith Prentice, who always talked about the bus situation there. So it's a timely discussion again, and to do this. Yeah.
And Mary's nodding her head because it came up at a point in the pandemic, and I know Sandra spent a lot of time on it, and I'm sure you did as well. And let's have a check-in. And
I can tell you there is no enforcement.
And this is a problem, and we're and it's sort of clear tonight by with the people we have in our attendee group, and with something I feel like the most amount of things that find their way to me, people write to the community board, it gets passed to me, are in things that aren't getting enforced. And then we start looking to DOT to kind of change the streets because something's not getting enforced. And sometimes the streets need to be changed because they're not fundamentally safe. And other times they don't need to be changed, but we need to get enforcement. Sometimes we don't know, what's the real, issue. But, that spot's never going to be perfect, obviously, but it sounds like there have been some developments, and so I wouldn't mind checking in on it again, because if we look at frequency of things that get to us, that's one that's kind of frequent.
Debbie,
So
I'm sorry,
Shanette-
this is Mary. Can I just chip in? Let me know if you want me to get someone from the 3-3 to speak about this issue, if you're going to be doing that in June. All right.
Oh, Maria, I would love it if you could help me with that part, because I wouldn't even know where to start. Because I'm always a little blurry also on, and like traffic enforcement is a separate command, but there are also
Right.
people at the precinct level who do have a response, who do connect to it. So I would be grateful, and I will follow up with you separately.
Well, let's not rush, because we have a public safety committee, and this is sort of their bailiwick, and we don't want to get into a match with them. So I think what we should first coordinate with them.
Jim, but they also come to the cabinet meeting, to the
That is
monthly
irrelevant.
meeting
They
also.
have never
So-
come to the Traffic and Transportation
Well, if
Committee,
they
and I
don't,
don't
they
think
don't
they
get
should.
okay.
Not that I have a problem.
I'm willing to
Okay.
help if I can. Otherwise, I just listen. Okay.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you,
again, I don't
Maria.
want to
It's
step
appreciated.
on other people's toes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I do think there was a time, well, whatever. I was thinking we kind of need a big traffic enforcement, at a public safety meeting that then we are sort of co-sponsoring. But I don't know, this is such a specific issue. I'll certainly tell Domingo, but I think he would be okay with it, because it's hard, because most of their activity really is pointed at the primary precinct activities, not by the traffic enforcement. Bruce, is that an old hand or a new hand?
New hand. I just want to add to this conversation the subway at 168 and Broadway, which adds to the complication of it all. And look, I asked that we put it on the June agenda to get an update from that.
Well, I guess, what do you mean by that? Because that's not an MTA update.
It's a neighborhood problem update.
I know, but isn't that handled more out of,
it's
Human
33.
Services leading that?
I don't know. It's public safety.
Yeah, it's not our committee on the lead on that issue.
We talked about it last time, and Julio's working on it, and Columbia's working on it, and everybody's working on it, but we haven't gotten an update about what's really going on because that scaffolding is, sidewalk bridge has been up for like 15 years and people are getting attacked in the subway. So I don't care about public safety. I just want to get a resolution.
Right, but
Well, excuse me.
it's DOB, it's DOB and it's public safety in the lead, where this committee cannot be the lead on something that has not, it's just basically not involved the MTA, like, period. And I understand people keep trying to draw it like it's being dealt with at the, chair level and public safety and
Okay, let's just talk
housing
about
and
it.
human
Let's just talk
services.
about it in June. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Put it off.
Well, the point is we did get an answer. The answer is the building above the bridging needs repair work. And until that repair work is done, the bridging must remain.
That's not an answer. I'm sorry.
That's what, well, we can discuss what an answer is. That's why it's there and why it's not going.
All right, I'll raise it at executive and let's try to Bruce, I hear you.
So this is Suda. Can I just add one thing?
Mm-hmm.
I gathered that when we talked about the traffic issue, getting someone in enforcement, I think the appropriate people to discuss this will be traffic enforcement and not necessarily getting the local precinct to be there, but getting who's in charge of enforcing the traffic conditions and that. And, the police isn't giving the tickets. It's really traffic enforcement. So I think that's important to have that there.
Yeah.
And there's no competition between them and the 33rd then in terms of doing that specific role. And just to add a piggyback on, what Bruce mentioned, this is traffic and transportation. And we did talk about one time about that scaffolding and its impact. And Jim is right. They came back a report, but I think also there has to be a rounded approach to getting the design and construction and also the Department of Health to actually do the work as expeditiously as possible. And they will not do that unless folks, within the board really raise those issues.
That is a fair point. And Steve Simon just heard your comment. It is not this committee. I will repeat, it is not this committee. I will make sure, and Steve, let's commit to getting it dealt with at executive, because people are like, it's a subway station, and they come to me. It's your committee, it's Domingo's committee, it's Marielle's committee. It is not this one. But I think it is, to Bruce's point, it is a neighborhood issue. It is something that so many members of the community, across organizations, across residents, across business people, have brought this up. So let's deal with it at executive and at the board level. But
all right, so
that's not on it's not on our agenda, and so I don't want to.
All right, we have a housing meeting on Thursday. I'll bring it up. Thank you.
Yeah, that would be great. And I think Marielle has been sort of on it in a big way.
Can I just report on this? The health department comes to my committee every month, and they've been reporting on this issue. And if you look at the minutes of my last meeting, you'll see that there was a report from the health department representative. They are saying that the construction will finally begin during FY23 on the exterior and the roof work that necessitates the scaffolding being up. We asked them to come back to, we asked her to come back to us with a anticipated completion date, so it's not open-ended. She said that the police officers who work inside the building will make their presence known, will be going outside and helping to patrol the area. And she said that she would be contacting the precinct to try to get increased patrols from the precinct. I'm not sure, apart from I agree with Julio, we have to push them to finally get this work underway. And we will be continuing to talk to her to try to get some movement on the beginning of the construction as well as the completion date.
Okay. With that, committee members, am I missing anything on old business? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second it.
Well deserved, well deserved.
Thank you to everybody who's come to our meetings before and who's not come to our meetings before. And thank you to my committee members. Thank you to community board members who showed up tonight, Emily and Maria and Steve, and I'm missing Marshall, and I know I'm missing one person, but I appreciate all of you. See you at the general.
Happy Mother's Day to all.
All right.
Good night.
Bye.